One of the critical social skills of an effective manager is the ability to build and maintain a coherent team, one that shares the common goals of the department, works together, respects each other, and feels positive about their work. In this episode, we'll discuss how to build and maintain such a team. Hi, I'm Rick Kendall.
And I'm Fred Ball.
Welcome to Management Mastery. The purpose of these podcasts is to share what each of us has learned about good and bad management in our combined over 40 years of experience, both as managers and executive coaches. During that time, we've coached managers at every level in companies from Fortune 100s to brand new startups in all major businesses, including nonprofits, government, and education. So whether you're just starting in your first management position or are an experienced manager looking to strengthen your management skills, we know our podcast will be valuable to you.
A critical skill of any good manager is the ability to build, maintain, and motivate effective teams. It's not an ability everyone naturally has, but is one that leaders can develop over time. In fact, it's not a single ability, but a collection of social skills that take conscious effort to develop and maintain. The key to these social skills is communication, one of the most important, if not the most important, skill in being an excellent manager. You need to listen openly and never cut others off, even when you disagree. Let them finish their thought before you respond. Ask questions to clarify what is being said, not to challenge. Repeat back key ideas to be sure you heard and understand them. That stuff is hard. Think about yourself. When I think about myself, never cut each other off, even when you disagree or when you've got your own idea. Those are hard skills right there.
Oh, are they? I mean, yes. That takes real discipline. The ability not to object mid-sentence is rare.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat them. You need to listen openly. Don't cut others off, even when you don't agree with them. Let them finish their thought before you respond. Ask questions to clarify what is being said, not to challenge. And repeat back key ideas. Then you want to have two-way and not one-way conversations. Involve the other person. You want to register emotional clues in attuning your message. What that means is you want to think about how the other person is going to react to what you're going to say to them. And you may want to make a change in what it is that you're going to say. And you want to deal with difficult issues specifically and straightforwardly.
You know, Fred, when you're talking about asking questions to clarify and not to challenge, I had a client who worked for a guy who, if you questioned anything he said, that is, if you wanted clarification, he took it as a challenge. So sometimes it's kind of hard to thread that needle, because people think any question at all is a challenge. So
no question.
That comes back to being sensitive to who you're talking to. One of a manager's first tasks whenever they take over a group or a department, whether it's by promotion from within or coming from outside the group or being new to the company, is to assess what we've called the competitive atmosphere of the group. That is, what is the level of competitiveness within the group? And is it internally focused? Or are they competing with each other? You want it to be externally focused. That is, focused on another division or company, or focused on achieving specific goals for the department, and not competing with one another. Sometimes there are people who just are innately competitive with anybody and anything around them. And as the manager, you've got to be sensitive to that and make sure that that energy is not misguided. It's critical to make clear at the outset of your management of the group that all of the group's competitive energy is to be directed externally and not internally. Things like everyone wins when the team wins, there's no I in team, but that's not always easy.
Listen, it's not, because you have some companies which have a competitive culture and some departments that have a competitive culture. And then you need to continually focus on your team and the external competitors.
Yeah, at the same time, people want to be recognized for their accomplishments and successes. So, but you've got to put it in the framework of every success is a team success, to which everyone contributed in some way or other, and for which everyone gets credit. So you've got to continually be reinforcing that. Something like Joe or Mary couldn't have done what they did without the support of the entire group.
I agree. When it comes to building and maintaining a team, collaboration and cooperation, that is working with others towards shared goals, are also critical social skills. Here it's important to maintain a balance between a focus on the task at hand and an attention to the personal relationships involved. And here it's going to take a little bit of study on your part. First of all, you want to think about yourself. Do you lean in one direction or another? Focus on the task at hand is one that I typically focus on. But then if that's the case, then you have to also be aware of the other side and say, wait a second, what am I doing as far as building personal relationships are concerned? And that's true for each of the members of your staff.
Yeah, Fred, I think we've talked about this case that I worked on before, but it was a manager who was very good technically, and his staff appreciated that. But at one point, the manager was called in the human resources department, and the person who had been doing exit interviews of his former staff said, they think you're great technically, but they also, both of them said they didn't think you cared about them. And that really undermines, I think, what we're talking about in terms of a team feeling. If they don't feel that the boss cares about them, then it's harder to get them to really care about the team.
That probably changed your focus of coaching with that person.
It did. It certainly did.
You also need to be sure that everyone in the team is sharing plans, information, and resources. And as a manager, it's important that you promote a friendly, cooperative client. You need to pay special attention to anyone who seems to be trying to hog the spotlight. When that happens, take them aside and remind them that it is a team effort and that everyone's effort is important for success. You want to spot and nurture opportunities for cooperation between team members and outside groups when that is appropriate.
No, I think that's important, that you're constantly, as the manager, reinforcing the team nature of things and keeping your eye out for places where it's breaking down or isn't happening. That where you've got, like you said, people who are trying to hog the spotlight, say, look at me, look at me, look at me. And you've got to be very firm about that. Even if they're a great producer in the group, you've got to pull them aside and say, look, we're a team here and everybody's contributing and everybody gets credit. So, do yourself a favor and stop trying to be the center of attention.
Yeah. And then there are some of those highly competitive people who seem to feel that it is not enough for them to succeed, that someone else must fail. and the manager must identify those people and deal with it. I had an acquaintance who was the head of a Grand Prix racing team. And on a Grand Prix racing team, you have two drivers from that team who drive at the same time. And they got into a competition between the two of them and ended up having an accident in the first lap of a race that they were actually leading at the time. And both cars went out of the race and the team lost the race. And after it was over, the lead person had those two drivers, as important as they are, and they're clearly the stars, stand up in front of the entire group of engineers who were working on those teams, which is over 1,000 people, and apologize to them, saying, you're hurting these people's living by the two of you being competitive with each other.
Yeah, it's not always that dramatic, but it is absolutely true. You undermine the morale of the group, and that affects its effectiveness. I mean, it's absolutely, and this is something the manager has to be aware of and on top of, because it's also easy to think, geez, these guys are really go-getters. I can't get in the way of them. I can't hold them back. But yeah, you can, and you need to when they're interfering with the overall morale of the team.
You can also bring your points home in performance reviews, where team spirit is an important factor and working together is part of the overall rating. You want to include team cooperation, as we said, as a factor in performance reviews.
Yeah, that's not always easy to do either. When somebody is really performing on the task and getting the stuff done, to say, look, you're doing a great job there, but you're also you're undermining a lot of your coworkers, and that's going to count against you in your review here. I mean, the most powerful way a manager can communicate this is simply by modeling the desired behaviors themselves. You know, qualities like respect, helpfulness, cooperation. And when they're shown continuously by the manager, it will be reflected in the staff. And again, this takes a certain amount of self-awareness. We've talked about self-awareness before, to understand what you're like and what effect you're having on the people around you.
Rick, there's one fellow who you interacted with who you felt was particularly good at that. I think that he was pretty open with people.
Yeah, no, he was, and he it was so dramatic. The first time I met this person, he was sort of a junior officer in a division of a large corporation. And I walked out of that meeting with this person and said, I've just had breakfast with the future chairman of this company. And he ended up being that. I mean, it was just so blatant how he modeled that kind of behavior, even you know, that early on. It was just remarkable. You know, it's also important that the manager draws all members into active and enthusiastic participation. We've talked a little bit about people who aren't that outgoing and aggressive. And we discussed this in our episode in dealing with the unmotivated staff person. You know, group members who aren't engaged with the group's success can also impair its performance. So it's important to make sure that everybody on the team feels that they're an important contributing member of the team. And you've got to, you know, too often it's the squeaky wheels that get all the grease, and you've got to be, as a manager, aware of who is, you know, hiding in their office, who's not contributing in the meetings, and gently bring them out. Sometimes they just need a little bit of encouragement.
We've talked about that, and some of the people who are motivated but quieter, you need to figure out ways that you can show them that you care about them, both individually and in a group.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they're just shy, and you really have to be careful because, calling attention to people like that sometimes can force them to withdraw even more. So it's a very delicate dance you have to do, but sometimes you need to go to your human resources department or somebody whose wisdom you respect and get some tips on how to get people to come out. But generally, a little bit of encouragement is all they need. I think most of the time people think, well, my opinion's not that important. And you need to say, yeah, it is. We want to know what you think.
Agreed. Another role of the manager is building team identity, esprit de corps, and commitment. The manager must be seen by the group as its greatest promoter to the outside world, both within the company and as appropriate outside. The manager must also protect the group and its reputation, both by ensuring it gets credit for its successes and accomplishments and taking appropriate action when the group falls short. The best managers analyze mistakes and have their people analyze mistakes when a project is finished, even when the project is successful. It can also include disciplining group members who damage the group's performance or reputation. More importantly, it means promoting your people for advancement and compensation. It is also important that your team knows that you are promoting them throughout the firm.
Yeah, sometimes you're very limited as to what you can do about compensation or benefits and things like that. But it's important that every member of your team knows that you're on their team and you're doing whatever you can to make sure that they're being fairly compensated and rewarded and get the visibility that they deserve. Even if that ability on your part is limited, you want them to know you're aware of it and doing something about it. I think too often managers can say, well, there's nothing I can do, so I'm not going to do anything. But again, just showing the staff that you're aware of the issue and care about it and are promoting them internally to the extent that you can is very important. And finally, it's important to have fun. I mean, you want people to want to be on your team. So that's looking for ways to have fun while still meeting or exceeding your goals is an important function of the manager. And it can just be silly stuff like, something fun on a Friday afternoon or, birthday parties or things like that may seem cheesy, but, They do bring morale to the group and they do reinforce team spirit. In this episode, we discussed the social skills needed by a manager to build and maintain an effective and cohesive team. We hope you have found this podcast useful and will come back again for more Management Mastery. If you have any comments about this or any of our episodes, or would like to find out more about our other services, including one-on-one coaching and group seminars for managers, visit our website at careercoachclass.com. Thanks for listening.